This panel is moderated by CHIA HOCK Lai, featuring panelists Alex MELIKHOV, SAMSON Mao, Antonio Fatas, and SØREN Peter Nelson. Please give a warm welcome to your panel.
Good afternoon to all. A warm welcome for those who came from overseas. Welcome to sunny Singapore. My name is HOCK Lai. I'm the president of the Singapore FinTech Association. Today, our topic is on stablecoins, but of course, stablecoins are not new. What's new this year is the rise of stablecoins by institutions. We have first JPM coin by JP Morgan, and followed by Worldwire by the IBM, and then of course the blockbuster announcement by Facebook Libra coin. So before we dive into the questions, perhaps we get our esteemed panelists to self-introduce themselves. Maybe we start with SØREN.
Okay, yeah, my name is SØREN Peter Nelson. I'm head of product at the Maker Foundation. And the Maker Foundation works on an open source project called the Maker Protocol that really creates an open finance platform. In core of that is the DAI stablecoin. And that is an asset-backed stablecoin, just like in the old days we had gold backing the currencies we know now. And it is also open and transparent, meaning that anyone can go in and deposit assets and generate the DAI stablecoin. We've been running for 2 years in the current incarnation. We have 100 million DAI, and that is pegged to the US dollar, so it's $100 million, and assets around 350 million backing that right now. Next week, we will launch a major upgrade, which really opens for getting more acceleration in this area.
Okay, my name is SAMSON Mo. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Blockstream. Blockstream is a Bitcoin infrastructure company, so we're working on the Bitcoin protocol, we're working on the Lightning Network protocol, and we also have a sidechain that we developed called the Liquid Network, which is to move funds quickly between cryptocurrency exchanges. And in Liquid, you can also issue assets such as stablecoins. So in Liquid, we have Tether, along with other stablecoins as well.
Hello, my name is Alex MELIKHOV. I'm with the Equilibrium team. Equilibrium is the DeFi protocol, DeFi framework for accelerating the development of DeFi projects. We consider ourselves as a multi-chain protocol. However, we started off with EOS blockchain. We have developed the robust technical infrastructure for future DeFi projects, which comprises of different elements which developers can take it from there and to develop their own DeFi things and decentralized stablecoins, whatever, synthetic assets. We actually have rolled out this year, in April, the first decentralized stablecoin on EOS, which is backed by EOS cryptocurrency. And actually, it's called USDT. It's established. It's out there. It's the first proof of concept for the Equilibrium framework. It has $20 million already worth of EOS cryptocurrency as a collateral. Yeah, so that's what we're doing in Equilibrium.
Okay, my name is Antonio Fatas. I'm a professor of economics here at INSEAD, which is a business school with a campus in Singapore and a campus in France. I do research in monetary economics, central bank policies, and over the last years, my interests have grown in the area of digital money, and stablecoins is a great example of that.
Or perhaps we should start with Antonio. Maybe you can tell us what is stablecoin and why do we need stablecoin in the first place?
I mean, I see stablecoins as a natural evolution of what we've seen over the last years in the world of cryptocurrencies. If you want to create an asset which is liquid, that is able to facilitate payments in whatever platform, whatever environment you want to use, it has to have a value which is stable. I mean, that's something that we learned over centuries when we think about money. So the idea of having a coin that has a value which is stable, either relative to other currencies or relative to the price of goods and services that we buy, seems to be a natural evolution if you want to develop a means of payment. If you want to develop a different coin, then a stable coin might not make any sense.
Okay, next to Søren. Where do regulators stand in terms of their regulatory attitude towards stablecoin?
Well, we are actually one of the oldest Ethereum projects back from 2014, and for a long time regulators haven't really paid a lot of attention, but in the last year it really has picked up. And what is really important is that there are different kinds of stable coins, because you have what we call centralized stable coins, where it's one entity that backs them by fiat or some other assets, where you have a controlling entity. And then you have decentralized stablecoins like the DAI, where there's no single point of control, nowhere where you can take it, because the way you generate the DAI stablecoin is that anyone, it's a permissionless protocol, anyone that has assets can go in on the blockchain, lock them up, and generate the coin. So it really is like there's no single point of control, and it really enables this DeFi system we talk about, where you have composability, you have openness, and you can build on top of it without the danger of something suddenly falling apart because you have a single point of failure. So it's very important for us that as the regulators go on and look at this, that they really understand there are different kinds of stable coins. And from what we're seeing in Europe, for example, we also kind of see the regulators starting to focus on the centralized stablecoins and saying, okay, decentralized stablecoins, that's not an area of concern to the same degree as centralized. So they start focusing their efforts on the centralized coins. And what the status is, I think we need to wait a couple of more months. We see the central bank from Europe, we see G7 issuing reports about stablecoins, and I think they'll form their opinion over the next months.
Okay, which means that regulation depends on what type of stablecoin it is and in which jurisdictions. Maybe next question is to Alex. Do you think stablecoin will ever go mainstream?
So look, I think that basically stablecoin are already out there. We have, as Søren mentioned, a lot of stablecoin models which are established, more centralized models which are actually also make sense if it comes to more liquidity, and decentralized models which are, I would say they're more kind of experimental for now, but definitely they kind of more transparent in terms of culturalization and backing with some assets. In terms of like use cases for stablecoins and its adoption, I would say that there are actually, we should distinguish issuing stablecoins, which is one use case particular, right, and using of stablecoins on the secondary markets. So in terms of issuing stablecoins for decentralized models, we definitely have certain use case when collateral holders are incentivized to place their collateral into smart contracts to generate stablecoin and get actually leverage on their assets in stablecoins, right? And currently this leverage costs not that much. It's actually cheaper than average loan from bank, whatever, and actually we rely on more sophisticated market participants who will be doing that, right? So it's more traders, more crypto, people who are deep in crypto, right? And in this sense, this is kind of tiny group of people who are interested in issuing this kind of decentralized stablecoins. Another use case is the secondary market. Right? In crypto, we see that mostly all the use cases on secondary markets more or less related to trading, to speculations. However, I think that at some point we will, like as blockchain technology is going mainstream, stablecoins will also go mainstream, right? Alongside with the blockchain overall. And I think that like MakerDAO, ourselves, and other projects, they're kind of taking responsibility for getting stablecoins out there and establishing more use cases for stablecoins, payments, and yeah, so many other things which are more aligned with the interests of average users.
So at this point, we are not seeing it being used in the day-to-day transactions. So
I actually can give an example where today we already have a very actual utility of stablecoins. You know, Argentina, that's actually, we see a very significant adoption there. And as you perhaps know, they have some economic troubles, huge inflation. And just a couple of months ago, the government said that nobody in Argentina can transfer or exchange for more than $200 a month. Before it was $10,000. So what do people do if they want to move out of this very unstable currency into something that they better can manage? They have three options. They have what is called the blue dollar, which is being traded in parallel with the official exchange rate on the local markets. They have Bitcoin, and then they have the DAI stablecoin. And each of those has characteristics like the blue dollar, that gives you stability, but you cannot bring it out of the country. And that trades perhaps at a 10% surplus on what the exchange rate is. Bitcoin, that's about the same because you can take that out of the country, but it doesn't bring you stability. Whereas with the DAI stablecoin, you both have the stability and the ability to move it, so it actually trades at a 20% surplus on what it is. So that helps people to actually have a safe store of value and also be able to move things out without being under some restrictions.
But how do you maintain scalability for the DAI if Ethereum is clogged up? Because we saw when Tether transactions were moving onto Ethereum, the price to transact spiked drastically, and they had to increase gas limits.
Yeah, and that's a very valid question, and we know we're not sitting around waiting for ETH 2.0 that will bring other scalability. But on Ethereum, we also have the concept of side chains. So we already have several successful projects running where you use side chains to improve scalability. So and what I would say about adoption is that when we launch this upgrade I talked about next week, we also bring a DAI savings rate to holders of DAI. That means that you don't only have safe store value, you will also start earning interest on just holding the stablecoin. That is being fed off the fees from the people taking out the DAI. They pay stability fees. But that suddenly means that you, no matter whether you can get a bank account or not a bank account, you can have what is equal to a savings account. And it's actually a little bit better because you have access to depositing this in the same manner a bank has, like putting it into the Federal Reserve. You don't have to have a middleman. So we really think that will give a great boost to the adoption of the DAI stablecoin, having this ability to actually have a savings account without having a bank account.
But that's interesting because in a way it's implying that if the trust to the central authority is low, that's where stablecoins can play a bigger role. But it's a question of whether you want to move to a coin whereby the value is more volatile, like a Bitcoin, or to one that is stable. My next question is for SAMSON. Today, the leading stablecoin is Tether, but it is also one of the most controversial, right? What's your view on Tether?
So I think Tether is controversial because Tether is the king of stablecoins. Nothing else comes close. Tether has $4 billion USD in issuance. That's 10 times larger than its next closest competitor. Daily trading volume of Tether is at 20 billion a day, and that's 100 times larger than any closest competitor too. So people will go after the king, obviously, and they should try to win. Don't go after the king and miss. But no one's going to go after a smaller stablecoin. They're going to go after what's dominating. And that's why we see things like a $1.4 trillion lawsuit against Tether. We see stupid things like one lone whale manipulated the market in 2017 using Tether, but it just draws that crowd because it is the biggest. To touch on some of the other points, I don't think stablecoins will be adopted in retail use cases the way they are currently. Stablecoins are primarily a method for traders to take advantage of arbitrage opportunities, to move funds on and off exchange, to break down some barriers. every stablecoin now still is bound to a chain. And if you want to move towards the retail front, you have to get past that. So similar to how we scale Bitcoin with Lightning networks, you can also scale a stablecoin with a Lightning network too. So for example, we have Tether on the Liquid network. If there's enough liquidity for Tether on Liquid, we can also spin up a Lightning network, which allows instantaneous transactions with 0 fees. So you could spend Tether at the coffee shop and buy coffee.
Okay, but
Yeah, can I
Alex?
put like, my 50 cents here with regards to retail use cases? So my take on that's that actually stablecoins in the current state of things, they are quite affordable mean of payment for online purchases, for example. If it comes to more scalable blockchains, which actually don't involve these enormous prices of transactions like Ethereum, you actually can transact almost for free, and you can purchase some items potentially on some online like stores, whatever. And we in Equilibrium and with regards to USDT, we have built the payment system, which is actually very easily integratable into any retail online shop in order to make a payment with USDT stablecoin, which is highly transactable due to zero transaction fees on EOS and the huge capacity of the network.
But you don't think there's a big barrier to get retail adoption? Like, how does a regular person, like a shopper, get your stablecoin?
Yeah, so look, it's the average question for all the blockchain space, right? Because we still have no easy way to on-ramp to crypto, right? It's a quite challenging thing. And it doesn't come not just to stable coins or, I don't know, BTC, ETH, whatever, any cryptocurrency. It's quite hard for average person to have the on-ramp. But, you know, like we see the progress in terms of that.
Yeah.
We see more easier way to get an on-ramp and to get on crypto, right? I personally, I give you an example. So I recently paid attention to my savings account, and I understood that I'm getting like 0 point something% on my savings. I mean fiat savings, right? And I eventually just realized that it would be more reasonable to swap my savings to crypto, like some stable coin, put it into compounds, and get like 5% APR. I did it, but I did it because I actually knew the way how to swap my existing savings into crypto.
You're very
right?
technical too, right?
Yeah, exactly, because I'm from this space. But for sure, I understand for average user who actually doesn't care about crypto, it's quite sophisticated way to do that, right? However, because of that, we still have some kind of arbitrage opportunity, right? Because I get 5% APR on compound instead of 0 point something% in regular bank. After on-ramping will become easier, actually available to any retail user, there will be no 5% APR and compound anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing.
I agree that we will also see retail usage of this. We have a lot of on and off ramp partners because there still is the real world and there will be for a long time. But we already have several partners where you just transfer DAI to your card and you use it like any other card. And I've been using this all this week. So things are moving in this direction. We're working to build out more infrastructure, and I certainly will see stablecoins also being used in retail transactions.
Okay, talking about retail use cases, perhaps it's timely for me to ask this question. What's your take of Facebook Libra coin? They have 2 billion user base. Perhaps, Antonio, you want to
I mean, my sense is sort of, if you think about it for the first time, it makes some sense that Facebook was trying to do what others have done, in particular in this region in Asia, which is to use the network that they had to implement a payment system where they control the coin that is being used. But they had a major contradiction, which is if they wanted to go country by country, they could have created a US dollar Libra version. But if you ask that question is why bother? Why do they need that? In fact, they just launched this week what they call Facebook Pay, which uses regular US dollars to keep people engaged into the networks. They don't need to create another coin. But they were very ambitious and decided to go global. So Libra was designed as a global stable coin which takes the discussion to a much higher level. Operational is much more complicated. And from a regulatory point of view, it brings lots of trouble. And that's why the reaction of regulators has been, you have to stop. It is not so much because of the stablecoin nature. It's a little bit because of Facebook, but especially because it's a global stablecoin that potentially could be adopted by billions of people.
Yeah. What about the rest?
My take on that that actually Libra, for sure, like all this adoption comes from the user base you have, right? And for sure, Facebook has enormous amount of users. I'm very big on Telegram Open Network as well because of that. And we actually, in Equilibrium, we have started developments playing around Telegram Open Network as well, unless it's still not in production. However, like in terms of Libra, I personally don't believe in this kind of custodial model. I think they're quite late with their solution. We'll see how it works out.
SAMSON?
I think Libra's doomed. They're probably not going to launch at this point.
Okay.
The team behind Libra took every possible wrong action they could have taken. So they started from a very centralized model with Facebook developing everything. They didn't release it as open source. They set up the Libra Association after, and they basically did it all wrong. They should have probably just anchored Libra to Tether, and they could have been done with it. But it's too late now, I think. And the only thing that I think could save it is the fear from the US of China's digital currency, electronic payment currency, taking over, and then they push Libra out. But I don't think it really means anything at this point.
Okay. What about SØREN?
Well, that's also what I perhaps... Well, I think it has the potential to be a powerful concept, but make no mistake about it, it is, as some of you guys said, it is still the model, the old model where instead of having banks, it's technology companies taking over that role. There will still be middlemen. It's not like the Maker protocol, which is an open blockchain model that has no operating costs. So even if they succeed, their rates will be higher than what a permissionless protocol running on the blockchain can offer. So, but yeah, it can be a powerful concept. When I came, I saw that there was on the paintings arriving, when we arrived here at the hall, there was a Libra sign and there was no DAI sign. I hope that will be different next year.
Yeah, speaking of that, like, I think now there are at least 60 different stablecoin projects. What's your take on that? Will there be a dominant one, or it really depends on which jurisdiction you are in? Because I understand, like, for example, in Korea, they use a lot of trust token, trust USD or what, yeah. Or what's your take on that?
I think you're going to see stable coins that are going to be successful as a way to keep people within a platform. Not at the retail level, but at the banking level, you have JP Morgan coin. I think that will be a successful stable coin. Some of you might not call it a stable coin, but that's what it is. It's $1, one JP Morgan coin. And it only works because you have a platform where you want to have access and you need to buy that coin. Now, when you think about DAI or many of the other, stable coins on the blockchain, then there's going to be competition. It's not just one. Now, potentially, there could be one that would be the winner, maybe several. But again, it's the same question. Is there a set of individuals, institutions that want to play within that ecosystem? And to be within that ecosystem, it makes sense to have a stable coin. So I think they will be successful as long as you have an ecosystem where that coin is required and is stable as it has been announced and it becomes credible.
Anyone have a different take on that?
No, I also think we will see lots of different stable coins, and we don't see them as competition in relation to the Maker protocol, because centralized stable coins can actually also be collateral for the decentralized DAI stable coin. So in that sense, there actually is no conflict in between having several stable coins.
My thoughts on that, actually we have still a lot of stable coins with a lot of supporters. Each stable coin has own community which supports this particular stable coin. But again, I agree with Søren that we are not like competing with each other, right? We are like complementing each other, building all this space. Like for example, if to compare MakerDAO, like DAI and USDT, for sure, like USDT has some sort of differences, like maybe less culturalization level compared to MakerDAO. We have like 130% culturalization requirements against like 150, but it's just details. Like I think that there will be definitely more decentralized stablecoins coming to the market, and there will be a sort of competition. But again, so we are existing in one space, and these decentralized models actually have some requirements for crypto collateral, right? And some more mature projects from like decentralized stablecoin perspective, they will actually will not be able actually offer more lucrative, for example, payment rates, right? Because of their requirements to maintain the peg to dollar, whatever they peg to. More like new stablecoins, decentralized stablecoins coming to the market can actually offer more lucrative payment rates, for example. But the thing is that the market will be balancing all these models. If some stablecoin, decentralized one, will be becoming more mature, it actually would be forced to raise its payment rates, right? And there will be always check and balances between on the market, and this actually market forces will balance and sort it out overall.
Okay. I think for the past few weeks, China seems to have taken a reverse stance on the view of cryptos. What do you think is the impact on cryptos in general and more specifically on stablecoins?
Well, I think a lot of the news out there is very positive, it looks like.
Yeah.
And it seems to be, Bitcoin is looked upon favorably, according to some of the recent news articles too. But I think for stablecoins, a big threat is the national cryptocurrency. So if you think about it, a stablecoin is just a mid-step towards hyper-Bitcoinization. Once we're at the point where we don't need to go back to fiat, then you don't need a stablecoin. And the question is, do you even need a fiat currency? But if you have a nation state issuing its own cryptocurrency, that kind of displaces the role of the stablecoin, which is that mid-step. The question is, like, how open are those national cryptocurrencies going to be? If a country still enforces capital controls, is their crypto going to also enforce those capital controls? Because the point of the stablecoin is freedom of movement and ease of movement across markets. And that's why they exist. But assuming there is a national cryptocurrency that has those same properties, then there doesn't really seem to be a need for a stablecoin to keep on existing.
Okay. Anyone with additional views on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an interesting contradiction because on one hand, China for many years has tried to make their currency an international currency, and they would love to replace the US as an international currency of the world. So creating a cryptocurrency that is issued by the central bank could be potentially a step in that direction. The problem is that leads to instability of their currency capital flows, and the question is how much they're willing to open their capital flows at the same time that they create this currency. And if they don't open those capital flows, then there will be a contradiction to create something which is supposed to be mobile, but then it would have to be restricted by those controls.
Okay. My last question, what's your prediction of stablecoins in year 2020?
Well, we've seen tremendous things happening in 2019, and what for us is important is also, right now we're only crypto collateralized. Our aim is to give everybody equal access to finance under the same conditions. That's very different from today. It's very poor, very expensive to be poor, and small and medium businesses, they have also to pay much higher rates. So to get the scale to really give that access, we need to get more than just crypto collateral into the system. So we are working already very much on getting tokenized real-world assets into the system. And we also seen on the regulatory front, big steps being made to kind of make sure we have the right regulatory frameworks for that. So that's what I see in 2020. We will see a lot more happening there. We have already been running 6 lending pilots to kind of assess how different types of collateral, like invoices, like real estate, like treasuries, like commodities, work in the Maker protocol. And we certainly see that there is great potential for many of these assets. So from our point of view, we really see, as in 2020, we'll kind of see a much larger collateral base, and we also will see not just this being used for edge cases, but trade finance, other areas will see an uptake in this.
Okay, Samson?
I think we'll see more stablecoins coming out in 2020, mainly because I know some of the projects that are working on the Liquid network from Blockstream. So there is a Japanese yen stablecoin being developed right now that is approved under the Prime Minister's office, and it'll be a regulated stablecoin from the FSA. We also have Australian dollar stablecoin worked on by Listed Reserve. They're based in Australia, of course. And also a Canadian dollar stablecoin that's coming from Bull Bitcoin, which is another Liquid member. And I think Tether's already on Liquid, but I foresee more Tether migrating into the Liquid network from Ethereum as it gets more clogged up. So they raised their gas limits, but already it's getting congested again. I don't think it can sustain the volume that Tether requires, whereas we can. I also could see some Bitcoin collateralized stablecoins done on the Liquid network too.
Okay, Alex?
Yeah, I think all these trends guys mentioned make a lot of sense, and definitely there will be more attention paid to local currencies-backed stablecoins, which will be more and more appearing on the markets. We on Equilibrium also working on that. We have some particular use cases with local partners who are interested in issuing like stablecoins back to local currencies as well. SØREN mentions that there will be more collateral types coming to the stablecoin space, and I think actually that's about scalability, because if you're committed just to one type of collateral, like crypto, for example, you face certain constraints, right, which are actually coming from the market cap of particular asset, right? And if you actually embrace more assets which can be collateralized in some decentralized way or centralized, whatever, you actually you get rid from these kind of limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more stable coins. I think you're going to see the regulatory framework defined properly, and then you have stable coins that fit that regulatory framework. Now, how widely adopted they would be, again, that depends on the use case and how good they are relative to other forms of money. I think Facebook could have potentially made stable coins something that is widely adopted at the retail level. I think you need some big network, some big player that does that. Otherwise, they'll continue growing, but I don't think we're going to see wide adoption unless we see that step coming from a particular network or a particular player.
Okay, thank you for your sharing. Perhaps let's give the panelists a round of applause.
Thank you guys for that great conversation.